Yes, yes. What's happening? How are we doing? What is good, my beautiful people? How are we all doing? So we have had a couple of setups that have come into play. We've also just had the S&P Global for the USD. So this is what the shift that you're currently seeing is. So how's everyone's week been so far? I've had a down week this week so far. I mean, there could be some more setups possibly to come, but we'll see. We shall see. Now, of course, we have to give a bit of a buffer for news. We can't just jump straight in on news. So we are going to be doing in around 10 minutes. We are going to be walking you guys through how to add the indicator to your chart. So the money in, money out indicator to your chart. And any other questions or queries you guys have, we'll also look to try and fill those. But we're going to do a couple of breakdowns, show you guys what we're looking at for today, and then we're going to go into ultimately how to add any indicator, but specifically the money in, money out indicator to your chart. So, what are we looking at for the rest of this session? Well, that's a good question because we have a couple of potential setups. Now, we had this setup yesterday, the NAS 100 setup, which actually fell just outside of our criteria for entry, but we did enter it with a very minor amount of risk, essentially because the criteria itself needs to be a minimum 3R, but we wanted to trade it into the new all-time high again because I believe a new all-time high will come, exactly the same as gold. But we shall see. Now, there isn't really any setup that we're sort of keeping our eye on with NAS 100. We're mainly just sort of waiting for the price action to play out with the setup that's already in play, which is a run from this low. Now, we don't have any 4-hour lows. The only 4-hour low we have is down here, and the nearest 4-hour high is up here. So we're looking for a run from the low to the high, and we've already taken out the previous low, giving us this setup. So we would just expect it to run higher. Now, of course, we have had fundamentals. So with fundamentals, we know that price action can sometimes stray away from the analysis that we tend to lean on. So euro, we had a bearish bias for this. We were looking for it to run lower. Now, it has actually pushed up against our bias, which is fine, but we're still looking for a run of the highs here. Now, you can see that we had an Orion alert here, but it wasn't actually an entry. We haven't had any sell setups for a little while. We did have one down here, didn't work out, it's fine. We're looking for price action to deliver to the high to then sell away again. GU, we're looking for a bullish setup, but ultimately it hasn't given us anything. Gold, we're looking to follow this up into the high, but I believe it's going to run without us. As 100, we already explained that. USHEF, we have a bullish bias, but once again, there wasn't actually any setups that have been delivered within the last sort of 3 to 4 hours. UJ, we're bearish. Now, I don't think there was a high placed here. Just wait for the alerts to load up here. Again, we know there isn't, we just saw it there on the 4-hour chart, but I want to see what the Orion system actually tells us. Okay, so it tells us there was no setups, which is completely correct. So let's go to GJ. Also bearish. Let's see. Price action want to load. Okay, so it's saying there's an alert here, but that is an incorrect reading. This is due to the open close issue I spoke to you guys about, which is fine. You know, it's something that we'll whittle out over time. But we're just looking for the low to be ran on that as well. So AU, we're bullish, I believe, and we're just looking for a bullish entry to take us up to the high. At the moment, we haven't had that. So price action at the moment is okay. It's relatively consistent with what we kind of expect of a Friday afternoon. Okay, so like I said a minute ago, we are actually going to show you guys how to add the money in, money out indicator to your chart. So does anyone have any requests for pairs for me to look at? Okay, yeah, I just seen it. What's going on, Chetly? What's going on, FX? Hope you're good. Yeah, gold, we're just looking for longs. We're just looking for it to long. We've just had news, so it's kind of, we're giving it a bit of respite. We're waiting for it to level itself back out again, which it probably won't do for like another 10 minutes or so. So we're looking for a run of the highs here, another all-time high. So how's everyone's week been so far? Hopefully good. For me, it's the first negative week we've had in over a month. I need that indicator ASAP. Yeah, so we're pretty much out of we're out of beta testing with it now, but we are still I can't even speak. We are still requiring manual adding to the. I say manual adding, manual like account access, because the reason we are doing that is because we still have some content to sorry, I just had a really weird message. We still have some content to fill to make sure that we fulfill all of the house rules on TradingView. So there's some points on the TradingView what's it called, like parameters, if you were, like when you upload something, it has to be within, like you have to do certain things with it. Like for example, the what's it called, Gemini indicator, that literally got taken down from the public like domain because we didn't give a good enough explanation as to what the indicator done, which is fair enough, but also I was just a bit like, yeah. Right, so we have a couple of minutes and then we're going to start showing you guys how to add the money in, money out indicator. So first of all, this is the indicator here. It's not got the best screenshot. I don't know why that's the screenshot, but it is. But it is a manual access indicator. So if you want access to this, you have to give us your TradingView name and I will add you in manually. It won't stay like that forever, but the current build, like I say, we still need to iron out some of the description, stuff like that, because what we don't want to do is release it, all you guys get it and be like, this is awesome, and then it get taken off of the public domain, which would be completely backwards. So we want to make sure it's all in line first. Now we do have a fairly good, oh wait, sorry. Not the money in, money out. That's what I'm going to show you how to add. This is the V2 version, but the indicator I'm going to show you is the daily bias indicator. Daily bias indicator is the completely free one. The money in, money out, unfortunately, is a purchasable item, but again, it's a very, very minor amount. Here, the daily bias indicator. So this one we're giving away completely free. If you want access to this, just give us your TradingView name. I'll add you in. Completely fine. This is the one that I was saying we haven't got enough content there for them to allow it to be on the public domain. So we're going to show you guys how to add indicators, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear all indicators off of my chart. And we're going to find a pair that doesn't have any drawings on. You know what, I'll go over to like, let's go to the Orion pairs here. Cool, these are the Vantage ones. Awesome. Okay, let's go to like the 4-hour chart. Okay, so this is obviously going to be on YouTube and it's going to be recorded. If you want to take a recording of this, you can. This is for people that are new to the TradingView platform. It's also for people that just maybe are a bit unsure how you would go around adding a private indicator to your chart. Honestly, it is very, very simple. There's only going to be one thing that's slightly different from the process that I use and the process that you use, and that is the initial finding the indicator and applying it. But I'll cover the points so you will understand it in its entirety. So what we're looking at, right, is we have the blank TradingView platform. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to bring this in. I'm just going to adjust this, guys. Don't mind me. So you guys can see the screen in its entirety. Okay, so you can see the full screen now. What I will do is I will remove this. And I will also remove this. Now you have a completely blank chart. And you can see every single part of the chart as if you were on your own screen, on your own PC. So what we're going to do is, once we have gone over to the Discord and we have added our name to the Discord and we've said, I would like access to the daily bias indicator, so on, I will come across to my TradingView account. I will go to the Orion bias area and I will add you in to one of the access members that get access, right? And then what you will get is you will get a notification and it will pop up, I believe, in the notification tab, which should be here. Right. This one. Here. Alerts and lock. Is it that one? No. Okay, right. There. They've moved it. Bottom right. Bottom right. It used to be top right. So the bottom right corner, you're going to get a notification, right? And you can see here we have notifications for people following us, people commenting on our content, so on. But you're going to get a notification saying you've been given access to X indicator, right? Once you do that, you're going to click on that indicator. And what's going to happen is it's going to bring you to this chart right here. Now I'll show you here. Let's see, I don't know why Rohit's account is stuck in the top left there, but it is. It's going to bring you to this channel. And you're going to say, okay, right, Orion Daily Bias Indicator, awesome. Maybe you'll have a little read of the very brief description we've got here. Leave us a little like and a comment. That's awesome if you could do that. And you're going to see this, right? But what's going to happen is you're going to need to add this to your chart. So the easiest way for you to do it is to go to this Add to Favorites button. When you click this, it's going to put it into a list on your previous chart tab. Now, you will probably notice that there is tabs across the top here. These tabs are all within the same window, so you can literally just flick between them and close them as you were as if you're in an internet browser. Now, TradingView itself is available as a web browser or as like the window you see here, which is the app version. Okay, and you can get the app for your PC, and it will become just like your browser app, your Discord app. When you click on it, it will boot up TradingView within its own window, so you don't have to have it on an internet browser. That's the way I prefer to have it. It's just much cleaner. So what you're going to do is once you've added this to your favorites, you're going to head back over to your chart, whatever chart that may be. Okay, and then from here, we're going to come across to the top. And at the top here, you'll see you have your pair, you have your time frames, maybe you only have one or two, and then you'll see a little button that says Indicators. Now, once you click on Indicators, it's going to throw up a box at you. If you guys can see that, yes you can, that's awesome. So that box is going to have a couple of different things. It's going to have personal indicators if you've created your own, which I imagine many of you haven't. It's also going to have your favorite indicators, and then it's going to have, you know, technicals, financials, community, invite only. Now, you can either do it from your favorites, depending on how many you have favorites, or you can come down to the invite only tab like I just showed you, and you can find it there. Now, what you will find is the indicator you've been given access to, for example, the Orion Daily Bias V1, and it should say author, pips, so if you decide to, it will show you the amount of boosts we have, and you will be able to apply this to your chart by simply clicking it. Click it once, and it will apply to the chart. It may take a second to load up, but you will see it coming in. Once it kicks in, there we go. We have our bias in place, daily bias bearish. Now, the daily bias indicator itself only displays the bias in the top right corner, and it only displays one other thing, which is the days in which price action was bearish or bullish. Now, these squares highlight a daily candle, so a singular daily candle, and it represents the bias we had at the time. So if the bias is red, the whole time we were looking for bearish price action. Bearish, 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 down to here we went bullish for one day, bearish, 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 we went bullish, price action went bullish, so on, so on, so on. Okay. Now, you are only going to see this on the daily time frame, but of course, when you get an indicator, you may not want it, the colors, or you may not want it to show certain things on the chart. So what you're going to do is you're going to hover over your indicator or whatever indicators you have on your chart. You're going to hit that settings button, which is the one next to the eye. Okay, the eye will just hide it from your chart, and you're going to hit the settings button. Now, once you hit the settings button, you will be shown another little window. Now, this little window is going to have all of the available options for your indicator. Now, because we only have very small adjustments to be made on this indicator, it only shows two things, which is a tag in the top right corner for bias, and then it shows on the daily time frame which candles are bearish. Now, if you don't want to see on the daily time frame these boxes, you can just untick boxes and it will completely disappear. Now, if you want to, for whatever reason, only see the boxes on the daily time frame and you don't want it to have the bias, you unclick table. All right, they're the only options that this indicator has. Now, each indicator is going to have its own variables that can be changed, but ultimately they're always going to be the same layout. They're going to be in the top left corner of your screen. You're going to have options. Some have lots, some don't have any at all. You're also going to have this visibility button. This visibility button is going to allow you to manually dictate which time frames the indicator is visible on. So for example, if we uncheck days, you'll notice how it disappears from the daily time frame chart, and also that the eye turns orange because it's showing you the indicator is on, but it just doesn't display on this time frame. Now, these are all things that you're going to play around with, and you're going to find which works best for you, what you prefer, and so on. So it really is more of a private thing. You know, some people may prefer it to be really bright and bold in the face. Other people might prefer it to be, you know, like super discreet and super transparent on your chart. So honestly, it's very easy. TradingView as a platform is one of the easiest platforms to use. It also has many options across the left hand side. These are all your illustrations, so you have lines in here, different, you know, like pitchforks, and I don't know, half of this stuff I don't use and won't ever use, but has lots of things for whatever needs you have. Now, one of the really cool features with the TradingView platform is if you favorite something, it appears in a little pop-up right here. So if you favorite the tools you use the most, you can then locate them in a convenient space on your chart, so you can just go boom, 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 and you can select what you'd like when you'd like them. Now you can see I have a very small selection here because I don't really use a huge amount of like drawing instruments, but there's a lot you can use and there's a lot you can play around with, but don't hesitate to use these things. So that is the simplest way to add an indicator to your chart. Now when it comes to the money in, money out indicator, I already have this in my invite only indicator section, so I can simply click on that and, like I say, give it a second to load, and here we go. Right, so I'm going to delete the daily bias one for now. I'll remove it, and you can see it starts off with these default settings, which are green and red. Now the default settings themselves are just what is it set to from, like, out of the box, if you were, but it doesn't dictate how it looks to you later on down the line. So once you've got this here, the money in, money out indicator, especially the V2, is going to be displayed on every single time frame. So whatever time frame you want to use it on, it's going to work for you, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to our settings, and you're going to see your input settings. Now this right here is going to be showing you a couple of key points. Now you can notice there's a lot of checkboxes. One thing I always learned early on was, if you have settings and you have a checkbox, just uncheck it and you'll see the variable that it affects. Yeah, just uncheck it so you know, okay, right, it's showing money in, money out. Awesome. I know that these, in theory, should change the color of the money in, money out areas. Now in this case, it doesn't, right? Because the money in, money out areas are classed as supply and demand areas. Right, so it's going to be changed from here, which again really doesn't make too much difference. Now it does have an option to show you fair value gaps, and you will see the first money in, money out areas, and you can also apply a minimum width to this. So for example, let's say you have a money in area, but the gap that created it was like 1 point or 2 points. You can add a 2 point variation here, and it will, any 2 point gaps will no longer be shown because the minimum width is not met. I generally don't use it because if a gap's there, a gap's there. I just measure it up with my broker. You can also extend the fair value gap. So if we extend them out, you'll see they appear, right? So if you prefer to use the gaps themselves, you can use the gaps themselves, but we know that the money in, money out indicator is giving you the key areas, right? That's why I have them on 0, because I don't feel the need to see them. Now, the same thing happens lower down. You have the money out, money in, money out, money in, money out, money in, money out, money in, right? You can decide how transparent you want these. So the higher the number, the more transparent they become. Okay, so let's say if we done 100%, you guys can probably guess what's going to happen. They disappear. All right, if you want them very faint visualizations, you can just have 90%. You know, I like to have them around 50, just gives a little bit more obvious sort of viewing point, right? I might even jack it to like 65 just to ease them off slightly. Now, when it comes to zone extension is pretty much what it says. The lower the number, the smaller the area will be. Okay, so put it at 0, you're not going to see them. Well, you can still see them. But I like to have it around 5, gives a little bit of space. Generally, if it hasn't tapped in after that sort of amount of candles, doesn't always give the best reaction. Again, that's not a rule set, that's just something that I've observed. Now, the alerts, if you uncheck these, the alerts won't activate even if you set them. So make sure you leave these ticked. Again, I don't really know why this option's in here, but it's here. How do you activate an alert, I hear you saying? Well, and with the styling, the only option you have is for the boxes because it's literally the only thing it shows. So what you're going to do is you're going to back out of here, and let's say you want to set a daily bias alert and you want the daily bias to alert you when it changes. You click on the 3 dots at the end of the indicator that you want to alert on, and when you click add alert, most of our indicators are just going to have an any function or any alert function call alert set as standard, right? That means that all you need to do is select the time frame and then select create. Now with something like the Orion daily bias, it doesn't matter what time frame you set it, it will only alert you if the daily bias changes. Now of course there are a lot of pairs that you may want to set alerts on, and if you would like to, you can set them on a singular list. So for example, over here I have my Orion live pairs, which are the pairs linked to our broker. I can go Orion live and it will put an alert on every single one of these pairs. So every time a bias changes, it will send an alert and say bias change to bullish or bias change to bearish. Okay, but it won't alert you every single day or every single 15 minutes. It's only going to alert you when the bias changes. All right, so you can do that and add alerts that way. Now, when it comes to something like the money in, money out indicator, that doesn't have a function call alert. Now, what I mean by that is you have to choose what you want the criteria to be, because ultimately it's going to depend on a couple of different factors. What time frame are you using the money in, money out indicator on? What kind of criteria are you using it within? And how are you sort of utilizing that? So that is going to depend heavily on your trading system. And then of course that's going to dictate what kind of alert you want to set. Now, for example, the money in, money out area contacted is the V2 addition to this indicator. So for example here, if we go off of this, and let's say you're on a 4-hour chart and you're looking to trade off of money in, money out areas, for example, there isn't actually a huge amount of examples here, but let's say you're looking to sell from this money out area, right? If price, like it does here, breaches within those two, so the low and the high, if it breaches within there, it will send you an alert and say money out area contacted on whatever time frame you set it on, in this case the 4-hour. That can then allow you to maybe come down to the 15-minute and locate something within there to sell that move within, right? Again, depends what kind of system you're using. So from there you can just allow whatever you like in terms of if you're looking for money in, money out being created, money in, money out being contacted, always dependent on what you're trading. Remember, whatever you're trading, that's fine, but make sure you have data to back it up. Make sure that you have extensive data to back up the system you're using, so when you have a down week, like the week I've had so far, where you've taken losses and break-evens, you have no problem coming back on Monday and executing the exact same trades with the exact same rule set, because ultimately it doesn't matter to you what happens in a singular week or a singular day. So within here, once you've set an alert, whether it's a money out being created, money in being created, or contacted, you then have to pick your trigger, right? Now, if you set it only once, the clue is in the name, it's only going to go off once. If you get a money in area created, it's going to go off once and that'll be the end of that. If you set it per bar close, every bar that closes after that money in has been created, it will alert you. Okay, so if you do it on the 5 minute and it creates a money in, every 5 minute bar it's going to say money in created, money in created, money in created, which can cause confusion. It can also jam up your notifications. One per minute, again, very obvious. One per bar is every time a bar forms before it closes, it will alert you. And of course you can change it and make it, you know, hibbity jibbery, whatever you would like. You can really do it however you like. That's why this version of the money in, money out indicator is completely unlocked, and it gives freedom to you guys to ultimately use it how you like. You know, you're not restricted to one particular thing. Also, if you get access to any of our indicators, you will have all of the future updates and patches and any features that are added to your system completely free. So it's not something that you have to, oh, I have to resubscribe, or I have to, you know, like repurchase the indicator. It's like a lifelong update thing for it, if you were. If you obviously end up using it for that long. But that is pretty much the basics of how to add an indicator to your chart, how to use the platform itself. There are a few tips and tricks that I can show you, but I think I'm going to actually create a longer form, more polished version when I've got my actual microphone to demonstrate some of those points. But I'll show you some of the little tricks and things that you can do now. So, for example, if you are new to the platform, a very easy way to delete things. Okay, so you see like all of this. A very easy way to delete things is when you're hovering over something, okay, as long as you have the adjustment cues in place, if you just tap in on your scroll wheel, it will delete the object. Right? So if you hover over here, delete, hover over here, you can delete. If you actually hover over, delete, and delete, right? So that's something that's very useful. Also, if you're drawing a straight line, so like this, you can see it anchors where you click it first, and then it will follow your mouse around. And now it can be annoying if you just sort of click it and it's wonky, right? If you grab any end of this and hold shift, it will lock it into an axis of vertical 45 degrees or 90 degrees. So you can draw perfectly straight, even lines every time. Now that's all well and good, but it still means you have to line it up with your area, right? Well, you can simply grab the end and press Control, or hold Control, sorry, and it will magnet to the nearest candle that you are sitting within. So let's say you want it to this high, you'll magnet to this high, and you've got it connected to this. And now you're looking at this thinking, well, that's great, but it's still wonky. We'll just grab the other end and hold shift. Now you have a perfectly straight line attached to the point that you want it to go to. Brilliant, right? Really, really simple. Some of the other simple tricks that I really wish I knew sooner were hold Control, click and drag, and you can highlight things and delete them. So if you have a massive drawings, you can delete them all in one go. You know, there's many options within here, and there's lots of like hotkey tabs and instructions and things. I think, yeah, quick search for tools and functions. Most of them you're not going to end up using. I've got a phone call I need to take, guys, but hopefully that was a useful little rundown of how to use the basics of TradingView and some of the points that have helped me be more efficient in my chart work. If there is any questions, make sure you ask them and I'll be right back with you.